So, you're scared of speaking to women, aren't we all? Yeah. But seriously, okay, welcome to True Connection. This channel is about improving your experiences, your dating options, having a healthier relationship with women, having a more fun life, all those things. And yeah, let's talk about it. A big thing a lot of guys feel towards women is they feel fear and they feel anxiety. Now, why is that? Okay, why is that? A lot of times we're looking at a problem and it takes a certain kind of intellect to be able to diagnose a problem and then to understand it. That is really the big issue. I think a lot of people, a lot of guys, first, we have to acknowledge that we're not very good at admitting that we have a certain problem. And I think there's a lot more guys who, when they really have to acknowledge it to themselves when no one's looking, they have to admit that they are a little bit intimidated. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're cool or successful. We all have that fear. There's always that girl we see who we're generally a little bit hesitant about, or we kind of create excuses for why we shouldn't talk to them. Okay, and then on the other hand, there's the guys who are just really scared of girls in general. Okay, and so what you have to understand is any fear, especially fear we're talking to girls, it's going to be a scale, right? So if you're a little bit more advanced, a little bit more experienced, then you might have yourself on the weaker end of the scale. And if you're a little bit shy, you're going to be here. And you have to think, there's a lot of different factors that can affect, obviously, what makes you anxious or not. And it can be a lot, right? It can be cultural factors, it can be biological, it can be kind of psychological things, right? There's so many different things that can affect your general attitude for when you see a girl and whether you have those physical sensations of like you freeze up or your head goes blank or you look away, etc. There's all these different indicators. Now, the first thing I think it's very important, the first kind of insight you have to get is there's nothing wrong with being intimidated, right? With talking to a girl. It's natural, actually. It's quite natural, more than you think. And it's natural, it happens, but that shouldn't stop you from doing it, right? That shouldn't stop you from opening your mouth. A lot of times when we do something that involves a little bit of risk, a little bit of kind of danger, we can feel that anxious feeling, okay? It's automatically going to come upon us when we have to act, right? We can get into that fight or flight response, if you will, and there can be like two ways to kind of look at it in terms of you can have either excitement, which is like, okay, this is a challenge, I'm going to go full speed ahead, or you can have the holding yourself back, and that is the other side. That is the kind of freeze aspect of it. Now, what you have to be able to say to your mind is that, you know, you would only feel these kind of things in a situation with stakes, right? A win-lose situation. And so your body's basically kind of echoing that sentiment, echoing that perception by, giving you these feelings, okay? In simple terms. Now, when you understand that, when you feel those things in your body, when you feel things come up, you don't have to be necessarily put off by it, right? You don't have to give in to your feelings and think, oh, well, this feeling means I shouldn't talk to the girl or whatever, okay? Because you might feel other feelings as well. But I think a lot of times as men, we might think that we are logical, but really we're just as emotional. We just hide it better. So the first thing you have to think to yourself is like, okay, it's okay that you're having these feelings. It means that you're doing something which potentially involves some risk. Things could go wrong, things could go well. Okay, that's the one thing. You've got that knowledge. But at the same time, you have to understand that nothing is as bad as it seems. And the worst that could happen is that, she might tell you, leave, I'm not interested, you're not my type, leave me alone, whatever, okay? Those are the worst things that could happen. But on the contrast, the good things that could happen are, you end up liking each other, you might go on a date, you might see each other more, or you might just, I don't know, you might just add a smile to each other's days, you might share something funny or interesting, right? Those are the kind of positive things. So when you're kind of going in to speak to someone, you have to kind of, there's two simultaneous things, right? You're always going to feel that fear, even I do, okay? You're always going to feel that fear, but at the same time, you can either, you understand it, you can reframe it, and you can also change your focus. So you can change your focus in terms of, instead of focusing on the things that could go wrong, and you can write them down, try and think about the things that could go right, okay? And obviously, if you haven't had things go right with girls, then you're not going to have many of those things, okay? But you have to ideally be able to imagine something going right. Not always the best thing. Maybe you can just imagine it like, they say thanks or whatever, or nice to meet you, or at least something neutral, okay? It's about changing your perception and your outlook. And if you do that, then it should be easier, okay? Because ultimately it's like you have to be in the right headspace, right? But at the same time, sometimes the feeling of anxiety or fear, that can actually help you, right? That can actually sharpen your senses. That can actually get you into this very present state. For example, you might think a lion's going to attack you, and then instantly you just you find the right move, okay? So that can be a good use of fear, anxiety, etc. But just start thinking about those things, and you'll be a little bit more calm when it comes to talking to the girls.